Now they bring Shakir back into the backfield. Flare him out. Allen throws off his back foot. Short, picked at the 9-yard line. Bullock.
Man, anybody excited about that one? Yeah! Oh, man. I'm fired up, man. Outstanding job by you guys, man. Hey, we knew what time it was. We needed to go hunt. We needed to play complimentary football. You guys did exactly that.
No disrespect. I'm going to be the first one to say this. No disrespect to the Cowboys' legacy and how the way they use this term loosely. How about those Texans? Because right now, the Houston Texans are literally the best team in Texas in the NFL. They picked up a much-needed victory against the Buffalo Bills to get back above 500 and save their season and hopefully can get in the playoffs by season's end. You know, before we talk about this game and the Texans' future for the rest of the season, let's talk about how the Houston Texans struggled and then picked themselves up. The beginning of the season for the Houston Texans was met a lot of question marks about how this team will perform since the 2024 playoffs. With CJ Stroud looking like he has checked out, and from the looks of it, he probably has. The Texans started off 0-3 this season. Offense performing horribly, as the Texans let their opponents come back to win games from behind, whereas the Houston Texans couldn't maintain leads. By the start of this month, the Texans will be 3-5, and CJ Stroud has been benched and also been put on concussion protocol, and the Texans turn to Davis Mills, a familiar face that is. With the Houston Texans desperate to turn themselves around after a disastrous first half of the season, the Texans with Davis Mills under center went right to work, and weirdly enough, the offense and the offensive line have performed better under the leadership of Mills, and for the most part, everything is going their way according to plan. The Texans have won 4 of the last 5 games with a blowout win against the Ravens, 2 division wins against the Jaguars as well as the Titans, and the much-needed victory on Thursday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills from the AFC East, where the offense and the defensive side of the ball kept the Bills stymied until the very last second. In just 5 games, Davis Mills has went for 88 of 150, 879 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns to just 1 interception. Even though CJ Stroud will still be the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans, we could bet to differ that the offense for the last couple of games has been performing better under Davis Mills. I'm just being honest. Let's talk about the Texans defense. The Texans defense has always been the bread and butter since DeMeco Ryans became the Texans head coach, as their defense had ranked consistently at the top the minute he got there. Majority of the time, the Texas defense always comes in clutch when it matters the most. In this past game against the Bills proved that they're not just going to lay down and lay flat on their faces. Will Anderson Jr. is a freak of nature, and I understand why Houston drafted him. Will Anderson is a one-man wrecking crew of that linebacker defensive end hybrid. They also have a killer secondary in Kalen Bullock, Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, Kamari Lassiter, and rookie Jalen Reed is getting coached up well in his first year. This year, the Texans defense ranked first in total and scoring defense, giving up the fewest yards and the fewest points allowed. Really impressive. There are approximately 6 weeks left of the NFL season, as there is no room for error for the Houston Texans. They will be battle-tested twice against the top-seeded Indianapolis Colts, the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as the Los Angeles Chargers. All of those 4 games will be crucial for Houston, as these games can either make them or break them. Of course, they have games against the Arizona Cardinals and the Las Vegas Raiders, but those other 4 games are the deal breakers for the Texans and how things are going to turn out for the final half of the season going into the playoffs this upcoming January. This is the Texans' remaining schedule. Week 13, they go on the road to go up against the Indianapolis Colts. Week 14, they will travel to Kansas City at Arrowhead to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 15, they'll go back to Houston to host a home game against the Cardinals and the Raiders in Week 16. Week 17, they will travel west to LA to face the Los Angeles Chargers. And then week 18, they will come back home to Texas and face against the Colts again to close out their season. I'm going to be the first one to say this. I would love for the Houston Texans to literally win out and prove everybody wrong. Listen, the Houston Texans are one of those teams that will really surprise you when you're not really looking. Since DeMeco Ryans became Texans head coach, they've always been the underdogs in most games. That just shows how tough these guys really are when it comes to football. Of course, the first half of the season was really bad for Houston, but they just found some way to literally pick themselves up and just start playing inspired football yet again. And that's exactly what they're doing offensively and defensively. All right, let's close this thing out. Despite the slow start, the Texans are 6-5 and above 500, as they could take the initial placement of the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC wildcard seeding, or they could upset the Colts or sweep them or split a potential tiebreak in the AFC South. It's going to be a battle for the next few games remaining on their schedule. But as long as the offense performs well under Davis Mills and defense continues to wreak havoc every week, the Texans can and will be a sneaky AFC playoff contender. Now get this. If Davis Mills continues to perform at a decent level like he's been doing the last 5 games, what does this mean for the future of CJ Stroud? If the Texans manage to sweep or split with the Colts and defeat the Jaguars the second go-around, it will cause a giant rift in the AFC South division, no doubt. What if the Texans defeat the LA Chargers? How about the Chiefs and Arrowhead? Those AFC West opponents. One thing about those AFC West opponents is that they don't lay down for anybody. They're going to punch you in the mouth no matter what you are. Unless you're the Raiders. According to team rankings, the Texans have a 50.5% chance of advancing the playoffs following the win against the Buffalo Bills. So that means they have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The Houston Texans need to control their destiny for the next few games, and they literally have to give it their all. Because this is the last half of the season in the NFL, and anything can and will happen as usual. This has been another NFL edition of the Eli Speaks Show. Let me know what you guys think about my take about the Houston Texans possibly being an AFC playoff contender. A sneaky one at that. And as always, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and thanks for listening.